Last night, Senate Republicans voted to take up legislation that advances a package of more than $9 billion in spending cuts proposed by President Trump. The procedural vote on the so-called rescissions package passed mostly along party lines, with Vice President J.D. Vance breaking a tie. Three Republicans, they were Senators Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, are all members of the Appropriations Committee, and they all joined every Democrat in voting against advancing this package. The bulk of the cuts in it are to foreign aid, but it also slashes more than $1 billion from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which funds PBS and NPR. Earlier in the day, Republican lawmakers and the White House agreed to make one significant change to the measure, scrapping a plan that would have removed about $400 million from PEPFAR, the Bush-era foreign aid program to combat HIV and AIDS. That was a key sticking point for Susan Collins, but ultimately she still voted against it. Now, it comes as Congress faces a Friday midnight deadline to pass this legislation. Otherwise, the administration will have to release the funds. Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Morgan McGarvey of Kentucky. He's a member of the House Budget Committee. Now, the House already did its work with this, though it's going to come back now since there were some significant changes made. But specifically when it comes to the public broadcasting piece, you've talked a lot about the way that those kinds of cuts to radio programs in your state could hamper people's ability to even be aware of what's going on in an emergency, which comes against the backdrop of questions of whether people were warned in Texas. Talk us through the implications of clawing back this funding.
Yeah, I mean, this bill is another slap in the face to Kentuckians because look at Kentucky. We're a rural state. Already this year, we have had 46 extreme weather events, floods, tornadoes in Kentucky. Your local news station doesn't cover every corner of the state. Yeah. The cell phone reception can be spotty at best when you're in rural Kentucky. And these radio stations are the lifeline. It's the way we get alerts. It's the way we get warnings to people. And when you're talking about a tornado coming down in western Kentucky or eastern Kentucky getting flooded in between the mountains, seconds matter. This isn't just minutes, seconds can matter. And it can be the difference between getting you and your family to safety or not, with devastating consequences.
And so there have been senators who have raised those kinds of concerns, not just in Kentucky, but in states like South Dakota and Maine. And that being said, it still looks like this package is going to go through. So then where does that leave your concerns? Does it mean that the state has to start funding these programs, and can they?
Yeah, the problem is that the state might have to start funding some of these programs. In Kentucky, I don't think they can. I served 10 years in the Kentucky State Legislature before coming here, and the budget just isn't that big. And it's on top of everything else, right? I said this is another slap in the face to Kentuckians because it was 2 weeks ago that we slashed health care. We slashed food benefits. The Kentucky state budget gets more in federal Medicaid dollars than the entirety of the Kentucky state budget. So the state is already figuring out how can we keep people on their health care? How do we keep rural hospitals from closing? Now you're talking about the lifeline of public broadcasting to warn people about weather, which is just getting worse. I mean, again, 46 severe weather incidents in Kentucky. It's only July. And we don't look different in that regard than many other states, whether it's South Dakota, whether it's Texas, whether it's Alaska. I'm not surprised that some of these senators voted against this because they may be out there saying they care about rural America, but then they're coming to Washington and their votes show something entirely different.
What do you make of McConnell in all of this? Because he has cut a very fascinating profile since he has not been in leadership. I think it's freed him up a little bit, especially in the Trump era. But his complaint here is that this is a rare way of clawing back appropriated funds, and that he's concerned that the administration never detailed what they were actually clawing back here. Like, there's big dollar figures atop as like umbrella figures, but no specifics behind it. So what do you make of him here?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm a Democrat from Kentucky, so McConnell and I have not agreed on a lot over the years. He's an appropriator. Yeah. And I think he does see that this money was appropriated. That's the fancy way of saying we've already given money or promised money to people. Now they're clawing it back at a time when states were relying on this, when radio stations were relying on this, when there's no way to go in and immediately make up that funding. And without the details there, it's going to hurt people. And I hope that's what he saw in this.
Yeah, I think it's a rare moment of Democrats in Kentucky and Democrats broadly seeing in McConnell someone who they say, actually, I kind of think he has a point, forcing people struggle to grapple with how they're agreeing with Mitch McConnell, who was a thorn in the side of Democrats for so long. So I think the rescissions package is so key. But the other thing that I've been paying attention to in the House this week is the way that some of your fellow Democrats have been trying to make hay of the Jeffrey Epstein problem that the White House is having right now by saying, all right, we're backing legislation that would push the Department of Justice to release the case files around Jeffrey Epstein. Do you support that push? Do you think it's the right maneuvering for your party right now?
Well, I just think it's the right thing. Sunlight's the best disinfectant. Let's have transparency on this. Now, for Trump, we've watched him lie repeatedly over the years. The problem is this is a lie he has a hard time getting out of. He was either lying about everything he ever said about Jeffrey Epstein, or he's lying about releasing the files. So go ahead and release the files. Let's have the trust and transparency there for the American people.
When you hear Speaker Johnson say that the White House does have to explain this, that Pam Bondi does have to offer more details, do you think that there's any world in which Johnson would help this kind of legislation along, or is that a bridge too far? Because in rhetoric, both parties actually have factions that are aligned on this.
Yeah, well, I mean, Johnson is saying that right now, but again, you're going to have to show us. He has not actually done anything that Trump has disapproved of so far. And he's done everything that Trump has wanted, whether it's going to be harmful to their members or not. Again, taking votes on taking away people's health insurance, taking votes on taking, food away from veterans, now potentially taking a vote on hurting public broadcasting and early warning systems for storms in legislators' districts.
Democratic Congressman Morgan McGarvey of Kentucky talking about all the news of day with us. But thank you for telling us what it's going to mean for your constituents if this clawback package goes through.